Hello, Dr. Childress here. In this video segment, I'm going to be discussing alternatives to child custody evaluations. The court is seeking the input of professional psychology regarding pathology in the family to help the court make decisions. So typically they go and order a child custody evaluation because that's the only way of getting custody recommendations to the court. We are, as clinical psychologists, we are prohibited from offering recommendations to the court unless we've conducted a child custody evaluation. We will lose our license if I recommend a custody arrangement to the court if I haven't done a full-blown child custody evaluation. Now, I don't agree with that. I think there are multiple sources of information that would allow a clinical psychologist to form an opinion about the child's custody situation. And so there's not only just this one format that I'm, have to use to form an opinion. No, I can form an opinion based on a lot of stuff and a lot of different information sets that don't involve this formal $20,000 procedure. So I don't agree. I think it's a suppression of knowledge. You're not allowing me to say, I have an opinion. You're just not allowing me to tell the court my opinion, because I haven't done your little routine of $20,000 to $40,000. I think that's a restraint of trade. I think it's crazy. You go over my custody evaluation series. It's a nonsense thing they're doing over there. It's fraud, essentially, in my opinion. There's no knowledge base to it. There's nothing. But they are requiring that be done in order to provide the court with an opinion about child custody. So I think that's a problem, professional problem, big time. Legal problem, big time, to restrict me from making forming an opinion or expressing an opinion to the court unless I've done their thing, which is crazy over there. It has to do with a racket. It's a financial racket over there. And so there's alternate, but I have to live with that. I cannot offer the court an opinion on child custody because I'll lose my license, because they will come at me if I tell the court that. So I have to be very careful as a clinical psychologist working with court-involved pathology to restrict. Now, my opinion on child custody, it should be 50-50 in all cases except child abuse. I mean, so if the court asks me, that's my recommendation all the time. There is no information that would allow me to say 60-40 or 70-30 or 80-20. There's no basis for that information. I cannot form an opinion about child's custody. Best I can do is mother-son, mother-daughter, father-son, father-daughter, and each one of those is equally important to the child's healthy development, and so best I can come up with 50-50. Parents can decide on a different schedule if it works for them, 70-30 or 60-40 or 80-10. Yeah, that's fine. Parents can come up with different schedules, and they can work fine that way. Okay, I'm not saying it always has to be 50-50. No, it's just if you come to professional psychology, disputed custody, you can come to professional psychology and say, what's your opinion, psychology? My opinion is psychology should say 50-50 all cases except child abuse. And parents have a right to do what they want, to adjust that if they can cooperate and agree on that. No problem. So I'm not out there, advocating that I be allowed to make custody recommendations, because my custody recommendation is pretty much the same in all cases, 50-50, except in cases of child abuse. Okay, but the issue is that the custody industry in professional psychology, this little forensic psychology industry they got going, is trying to restrict trade, is trying to restrict who can talk to the judges, to only them, because they're making good money at it, let me tell you. And so I'm going to be challenging that a little bit. I'm coming in as a clinical psychologist with a clinical psychology assessment protocol. And so what I see my work is doing is, I'm not a forensic psychologist. No. No, I'm not a forensic psychologist. I'm a clinical psychologist. I diagnose and treat pathology. That's what I do. And so what I'm suggesting that the court really wants, I don't think the court wants a custody recommendation out of psychology. That's the job of the court. You decide what the custody is. It wants information from psychology to help it make its decision. Okay. And what's the information that the court wants? it wants us in psychology to describe the pathology in the family. The court's looking at a situation where the child's rejecting a parent and is in potentially violation of court orders because the child is... And the court doesn't want to impose sanctions on the kid for a violation of court orders, and it doesn't want to impose sanctions on the allied parent if it's actually the target parent that's causing the... And so the court wants clarity on the family pathology or the family issues. So the court's going, geez, we get declarations from one, you're a bad dad, declarations from the other, you're a bad mom. And what did the court do about it? This is a family psychological kind of issue here. So they're seeking professional psychology's input on the family crazy, on the family pathology. So this is actually a clinical psychology referral, not a custody referral. It's a pathology-related referral. And the referral question, as I see it from the court, is which parent is creating the child's attachment pathology. So we got a child rejecting a parent, that's attachment pathology. Which parent is causing that? Is it the targeted parent because of some sort of abusive parenting practices? The child doesn't want to be with an abusive parent? Or is it the allied parent through the cross-generational coalition? They're using it as a child as a weapon against the other parent. So that's what the court wants to know. Which parent is causing the child's attachment pathology that is in defiance of court orders? Now, if you got attachment pathology but the child's following court orders, that's a therapy issue. We're good. We're not in the court system. You know, the child's following custody record, and there's family conflict. That's an us thing. The reason it's coming into court is because the child's in defiance of court orders. Why is that happening? Oh, because the allied parent is using the child to nullify court orders. Okay. So, Your Honor, you've got a parent who's manipulating you. They're using the kid to defy your court orders. I wouldn't let them do that. If I was a judge, my court orders are my court orders. You need to follow my court orders. And if there's a problem with that, you take it to therapy. That would be me. Okay, I'm kind of that way. But I'm not a judge. I'm a psychologist. That's the difference. So if you don't mind your court orders being violated, okay, but then send them over to psychology, get an assessment for this. And the assessment protocol that I'm proposing for you as a consultant for the court, a clinical psychology consultant for the court, what I'm proposing is that we can answer that question, which parent is causing the child's pathology, in about 6 sessions. I need to get information basically on 2 instruments. The first is the parenting practices rating scale. I need this for the targeted parent. I need to document or need to assess the targeted parent's parenting practices. Are they normal range? Are they abusive? What's going on with this parent? Because that's the first thing. If the child's rejecting this parent, what's this parenting like? And a lot of times I read these reports and stuff, and it's very vague. They just don't. And so this instrument documents it. It establishes clarity to the data. And so there's 4 categories: abusive, just short of abusive, normal range, problems, and normal range. And so it kind of falls into 2 categories: either the parent's abusive or the parent's normal range. And that's what we need to identify. And so that's the first thing. Parenting practices rating scale will give us that documentation. Is this a normal range parent or is this an abusive parent? So now, that's one instrument I need. The other instrument I need, or the other symptoms, is 3 specific symptoms that will always show up when the child is being manipulated and used as a weapon against the other parent. When one parent comes in and tries to weaponize the child in the spousal conflict, we're going to see 3 symptoms. Very characteristic symptoms. And you're going to hear a lot of stuff, Dr. Childress' new theory. It's not a new theory, okay? It's standard attachment and personality and family systems stuff applied to the symptoms. And you're saying, if this pathology is going on, you're going to see this set of symptoms. And other videos will talk about those symptoms and what they are. But essentially, if there's this one type of pathology, cross-generational coalition, narcissistic borderline parent who's using the child as a weapon, if there's this type of pathology, you're going to see 3 very characteristic symptoms. We're predicting those. And so if those 3 symptoms are present, and this is a normal range parent, it's lock solid who's causing the pathology. And so what I can do, what I'm proposing, I can do it, other mental health people can do it. It's a really basic sort of standard clinical psychology assessment, is we're going to go in and we're going to, across 6 sessions, it is typically the amount of sessions it requires to acquire the information necessary to rate these 2 scales. So there's 3 phases. The first 2 sessions are with the parents individually, mom individually, dad individually. Next 2 sessions are with the kids and the parent, the targeted parent. The final 2 sessions are with the 2 parents again. And in those 6 sessions, we can gather the information necessary to make those 2 rating scales, and then we'll provide those 2 rating scales to you. You can look at the data. You can look at the data yourself, Your Honor, and then we will provide you with like a 10-page report that kind of frames up what's looking on. If the pathology is here, we'll identify it. If it's subthreshold, we'll identify it and directions you can go to figure things out more. And if it's not there, we'll identify that and tell you what's going on. So we'll give you the information about which parent is causing the child's attachment-related pathology and what's that about, and the direction to take in that, the treatment implications for that. Are we going to make recommendations for custody? No, we're not, because that's not the question before. You've already established court orders for child custody. That's not the issue. It's a pathology that's preventing those from being enacted. That's what you're coming to us for, at least in my opinion. So we can give you information on that. Now, if we got really severe kind of stuff, if this parent is twisting up this child to make this child a weapon against the other parent, it can rise to the level of psychological child abuse. And so if we recognize that in the pathology, if you send it over to clinical psychology and say what's going on, and if we see child abuse, psychological child abuse, in the severity of the child's symptoms that are being created by this parent, we'll let you know. Because that's a child protection issue, and you should have the benefit of that information and knowledge as you're making decisions about child custody if one parent is abusive of the child. So we will provide you with information out of clinical psychology. And that is a more limited scope clinical psychology assessment of pathology. And that's what an attachment-based model or the treatment-focused assessment of attachment-related pathology does, is it provides the court with a limited scope assessment of pathology that the court can then incorporate into its decision-making regarding child custody. So that's one alternative to the child custody evaluations. Oh, in addition, child custody evaluations take 6 to 9 months to conduct, and are about $20,000 to $40,000. We can conduct a 6-session treatment-focused assessment in about 6 to 8 weeks. If your honor really needs it, if you want it fast, we can get it done in about 2 weeks. Okay, if on a rush thing. But typically about 6 to 8 weeks for the 6 sessions and the report. So that's really brief. 2 months, 8 weeks, versus 9 months for custody evaluation. In addition, custody evaluations are $20,000 to $40,000. Yikes. How many families just have $20,000 to $40,000 to spend on a custody evaluation? In addition, Your Honor, shouldn't that money be going to the kids' college education money? I mean, if a family has $20,000 to $40,000 to spend on a custody evaluation, shouldn't that be going to the kids' college education money, and we can find a better, more efficient way of doing this? Is that the only way we can do this, is by $20,000 to $40,000? No, it's not. A more limited scope, treatment-focused assessment, we can bring that in for maybe $2,500, $2,000. For a limited scope assessment that provides Your Honor with a brief, encapsulated kind of description of who's causing the pathology. It's an alternative that is available to the court if the court wants to seek a clinical psychology assessment of the pathology rather than a forensic child custody evaluation. So that's one of the main alternatives to child custody evaluations that the courts have.